What's up? It's Andrew from the band Rip to Shreds, and today we're going to talk about why the super shredder Yngwie Malmsteen is actually underrated. Yngwie is probably the most influential guitarist for lead players since EVH. However, much like Eddie, no one would have cared about his music if it wasn't memorable as hell, held together by sick hair metal riffs, amazing vocal lines, and hooks like I Am a Viking. Although shredders like Vinnie Moore or Jason Becker are still beloved by many guitar players today, no one actually remembers Cacophony songs, and Vicious Rumors is pretty unpopular nowadays. Personally, I like Desert Island, but it's not a very good song other than Jason's solo. A Michelangelo Badio is completely obscure to anyone who doesn't consume guitar instructional content. Paul Gilbert is probably the only 80s metal shredder that I can think of that actually broke through to the mainstream. And it's no surprise that he did so on the back of Mr. Big, which is basically a pop rock band that's almost entirely devoid of shred. And yet, almost anything anyone talks about are Yngwie's fast picking, his 3-string diminished arpeggios and all that, when it's really his songs that have given him so much staying power. So here's some of my favorite riffs from his early career. This is the main riff from Hiroshima Mon Amour, when he played with Alcatrazz. Yngwie first debuted on the Steeler album in 1983, but it was an almost entirely unremarkable album and none of the music was very good. So it was with Alcatrazz where he really got exposed to the general public. That was originally intended to be like a solo showcase for the singer Graham Bonnet, who used to sing in Ritchie Blackmore's Rainbow. You can hear a lot of the Rainbow influence in this band. It's still partway between hard rock and heavy metal. And now for a quick word from our sponsor. The sponsor of today's video is me. I have a glam band called Heavy Metal Shrapnel. We just put out our first single off the new record, Heavy Metal Hairspray, and the singer for this band is Mark Bowles, same singer on Yngwie's Trilogy. Check the description for the links. Coming out March 27th, and we will be playing live. This next bit is a classic intro riff off his second album, Marching Out, called I'll See the Light Tonight. And here is where, he gets undeniably metal, right? That palm-muted riff just gets me like every fucking time. I'm actually leaving out the I Am a Viking riff because that's it's kind of like halfway between a lead and a riff, so it doesn't exactly fit what I want to talk about for the video. Now, this is Soldier Without Faith from the same album. One of the reasons I really like this riff, if you divide a beat into one E and a, it starts on the E. One E and a. It's like rest. That's pretty unique for metal riffs. Very rarely do we see them start on the E of a one E and a. I think in general, this kind of funky ba da ba 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 da is a pretty common characteristic that you'll see in a lot of Yngwie's early albums, where the drumming is not strictly, 70s hard rock, early 80s metal. Anders Johansson, the drummer for, I think, almost all his early albums, had a particular way with throwing in funky hi-hat grooves that I never hear someone like a Cozy Powell or Tommy Aldridge do. And another really cool bit about this riff is how it's got that driving 16th note rhythm, da-da-da-da-da-da-da-da-da-da, but the drums are actually like playing halftime with a snare on the tss, da, tss, da. That syncopation is just a really cool effect. This next one is Caught in the Middle.
Caught in the middle.
This riff is like pretty characteristic of a lot of 80s hard rock and metal songs where you start on the and of the preceding measure. 4 and 1, 2, 3, 4 and 1, 2, 3, 4 and 1. It can be a little bit tricky to count if you aren't used to it. And it's not really something I hear a lot of modern bands do anymore. This is off the Trilogy album when Yngwie started working with Mark Bowles, who is on my new record. This is the intro and chorus riff to Liar. Actually, the funny thing is I requested Mark to put in the next song, Fire, into our set list, but he wanted to do Liar instead. It's got that great harmony intro, and this is like maybe my favorite Yngwie song, which is Fire. So the way this one works is kind of funny. And it's something you'll see happen a lot in a lot of 80s metal. A major to E major. And then you move down here, which is F major to C major. You move up a whole step. G to D major. So these are really a set of 5-1, 5-1, 5-1. I guess it's not really in any one key. It's just a bunch of 5-1s moving down, and then moving down again, and moving up, before coming back to the very top. And then it goes into this C sharp minor, which is the, I believe, parallel minor to E major. You can think of E as the home key for the whole thing. Just so like fucking triumphant. Just one of my favorite Yngwie riffs. After Trilogy, we get to Odyssey. And I love Odyssey, but I think the riffs aren't quite as good on it. But the vocals and the lyrics are significantly better. And that's because he started working with Joe Lynn Turner, who actually went in and rewrote a whole bunch of Yngwie's lyrics, adapted the vocal lines to better match. Like in Soldier Without Faith, you know, gotta get out of here. It's not really a natural vocal line. According to like the Yngwie biography that was written by his friends, his English ability wasn't very good when he first came to America. But he was also not very receptive to feedback about it. A lot of the lyrics on those first 3 records are not very good because his English wasn't very good. So why do people forget that Yngwie wrote great songs? The first and most obvious reason is that his lead playing was literally that revolutionary. People focusing on this ridiculous, crazy shredding. And then there's a matter of the time in which his music resides. So I personally check out as soon as like Eclipse, because he starts repeating himself a lot, and that's like already only 1990. And then when hair metal is like no longer popular in the mainstream, he starts playing a bunch of like bad blues rock riffs, and that would have been, you know, totally dated to mainstream rock fans at that time who were, you know, listening to Nirvana. So he never really adapted to changing mainstream tastes, and he didn't rebrand himself to appeal to like true underground metal warriors. So for people like me, born in the early 90s, our primary exposure to Yngwie would have been like guitar covers on YouTube of, you know, Black Star or Far Beyond the Sun. And those are amazing tunes, but those are much more instrumentally focused, and part of what gives Yngwie his reputation as just a shredder. Unless you grew up enjoying your parents' Bon Jovi or Whitesnake records, which I did. I think hair metal is simply not what my generation would have been looking for. And then, of course, younger metal fans with Spirit Box or Knocked Loose or Animals as leaders, right? Hair metal is totally not what they're looking for at all. They would be even more disconnected from popular radio rock music of the 1980s. Anyways, if you're in any way interested in traditional heavy metal, hard rock of the late 70s, early 80s, like Scorpions, Accept, all that stuff, you owe it to yourself to revisit those early Yngwie records. And don't forget, Heavy Metal Shrapnel, featuring fucking Mark Bowles off the Trilogy album. We got a new single. We got an album coming out in March. Check the description. Check links somewhere here. We will return to regularly scheduled Gore Grind content next week. So, as always, eat ass, blast fast, and peace.